going on?
Well, I think this is extraordinary, McGraw. Bob Corker from Tennessee is not running again, and so he's liberated from political considerations. He does not have to worry about alienating the fervent core of Trump supporters. He doesn't have to worry about a primary challenge from the right. He insists he's actually speaking for many Republican senators who privately are increasingly concerned about the president's stability, about his judgment, about his recklessness. He used the word chaos to describe what was happening inside the White House. And, you know, I've covered Washington a long time. The only historical parallel I can think of, McGraw, was another Republican senator from Tennessee, Howard Baker, during Watergate. When he turned against Richard Nixon, it was the beginning of the end for Nixon. Now, we're a long way. I want to be very careful here. We're a long way from talking about impeachment of Donald Trump. But that's the only historical analogy I can think of. It's just extraordinary for a senator of a president's own party to be that critical, not just of a policy, but of the president's core judgment, his stability, his temperament. That's what was so extraordinary.
What I find fascinating is Bob Corker, as you mentioned, isn't facing the electorate again. So he feels free to say this. But he's speaking for others. Well, if it's so bad, are these other people putting their own future ahead of the country's future by not saying anything, if that's what they truly believe?
That's an excellent question. And a lot of Republican commentators, columnists, have said, you know, that Republicans, history will judge a lot of these Republicans about whether they had the courage to stand up to Donald Trump. And the truth is, most have not, for very good reasons, in a way. No matter how many doubts they might have about the president's experience, about his judgment, his temperament, these doubts were there during the campaign. They've been there the entire presidency. But Republicans have a vested interest in Donald Trump's success. They hold both houses of Congress. They're going to have to go to the voters next year and talk about their record of accomplishment. They need Donald Trump to succeed, and that's why their criticisms have been so muted. But when you get someone like John McCain, who's 80 years old and probably fatally ill, he, too, is liberated from some political considerations, but most Republicans are not.
Yeah, well, they haven't gotten a whole lot done, so I don't know. They've made this deal with the devil, but they haven't been able to agree on anything. But the other thing is this, Stephen Roberts, and that is the traditional Trump supporter doesn't even like the Republican Party, and they think that every Republican in Washington is like Corker. They're only saying they like Trump because they have to. And all of Trump supporters say, we don't even like you guys because you're not fully on board with Donald Trump. I mean, this is an all-out hand-to-hand combat in the Republican Party.
Well, it is because, among other things, Donald Trump is not really a Republican. I mean, this is not as if, you know, he's changed his party registration, I think, 5 different times in his career. He spent a good part of his political life, such as it is, as a Democrat. He clearly does not share some core Republican beliefs, including a balanced budget. I mean, his tax bill, independent analysts, and we don't know all the details, have said that his tax bill could cost the Treasury $1.5 trillion. That's a T, trillion dollars. That's not traditional Republican economics. And so you have to think of Trump really as an independent president. He doesn't have any loyalty to the Republican Party, to the Republican leadership, and they don't really have any loyalty to him. It's a marriage of convenience, but it's an extraordinary division here because Trump really doesn't care about the Republican Party and its future. He cares about one thing, and that's himself. And if the Republicans can help him at some moment, he'll work with them. But he's just as likely to attack fellow Republicans as support them. And that was one of the things we saw over the weekend because he doesn't have any underlying institutional commitment to the Republican Party or its success.
I got 30 seconds here. What does this do for the tax bill? Does this clearly makes it harder. Does this make it dead on arrival?
No, because, again, Republicans have a very deep vested interest in getting something done. But you saw during the health care debate, 52 Republican senators. They can only afford to lose a few. And this is what's so crazy from a legislative point of view. Why do you attack one of the chief architects of any tax bill when you can only afford to lose 3 Republicans? It just defies politics. But as you and I have talked about over and over again, Donald Trump is still in campaign mode. He's dividing the electorate, a tactic that won him the presidency with 46% of the vote. It's not a strategy for governing. And he continues to fail as a president because he has not understood the difference between campaigning and governing.
Best in the business. Stephen Roberts, thanks for checking in.